In 2009, my team went into the Sahara to track two soldiers who vanished without a fight. We figured it was heat or bad navigation, normal stuff, but the desert had something waiting for us. Something we never expected. Something that moved in storms and shadows and took my men like they were nothing. If you ever hear a voice out there calling you, don't answer. I learned that the hard way. So before we begin, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I still remember the heat that year. Early 2009, northern Mali, edge of the Sahara where the rocks fade into sand, and the world feels scraped clean by the sun. We were a small team, moving quiet, supposed to be a simple look and recover job. Nothing dramatic, nothing for the papers. Official line said to US. Soldiers attached to a training mission went missing during a short movement between checkpoints. No gunfire reported. No smoke. No sign of a fight. They were just there one moment and gone the next. The kind of thing that gets people whispering, but not enough to ring alarms outside the chain. Someone wanted it handled fast and quiet. Major Nate Harlow led us. Calm man. Eyes like he was always checking you math. Hated guessing. Said the desert hated guessers even more. He kept a notebook in his cargo pocket with rules he'd written for himself years earlier. Rule 1, he said the most, desert doesn't forgive mistakes. We don't give it any. Then we had Doc Mendez, our medic. Kept everyone steady by being the only one who didn't get rattled. He joked at the wrong times, but somehow that helped. He could stitch a split knuckle while humming something terrible. Kara Vance handled our radios. Sharp. Always looked like she was listening to two conversations at once. She didn't trust anything she couldn't reach out and touch, so the desert annoyed her. She called it empty noise. Owen Pike walked point, could read ground better than most people read books. He'd squat, look at a rock, and tell you who stepped past it and when. Never bragged. Just did it. Cal Rourke carried the heavy pack, the extra rounds, the tools. Big guy, quiet, protective. He never talked about himself. Just showed up, did the job, and watched out for the rest of us. And then there was Ibrahim Agazuddin, our Tuareg guide. Contracted local, knew the routes. Drove like he'd been born holding a wheel. He talked little, but when he did, people listened. There was a reason for that, but we didn't understand it yet. We started from a forward site that barely counted as a camp. A few tents half buried from the last dust gust. We got our gear checked early. Water rules repeated. We kept packs tight and simple. Maps copied in case one blew away. Compass checks. Night vision tested for flicker. Radio synced. We went over hand signals again. Nothing heroic. Nothing out of the ordinary. Harlow looked at us before we stepped out and said the mission again in his slow voice. Locate, confirm, extract. No hero moves alone. Bring them home or bring back the truth. The missing pair had run a movement between two simple checkpoints. They'd carried a radio, extra water, and a beacon tag. Easy terrain, no reason to get lost. But they did. Last recorded radio line was strange. One of them said, "We found water." Then nothing. Nobody finds water out there unless they're at a Guelta or someone's stash. That didn't sit right with any of us. The beacon pinged once after they vanished. 9 seconds. Then dead. The grid sat near a Guelta surrounded by ridges. People passed through there sometimes. Smugglers, nomads, hunters. Not a safe spot, but not impossible either. Just a place that made the back of your neck tighten. Ibrahim looked at the map when we showed him. His shoulders went stiff. He didn't refuse, but he said one thing: we go fast. We don't sleep there. Harlow asked him why, and he just shook his head. Old place. Bad stories. We rolled out anyway. Our job wasn't to chase stories. It was to figure out what happened to those two soldiers. Morning heat came up quick. By the time the sun was halfway up, our shirts were stuck to our backs and the air felt cooked. The rocks on the flats shimmered. The truck vibrated under us as Ibrahim drove north along a broken trail, then off it, following some line he knew by memory. We stopped every few hours to check gear and drink a little. Water was measured. One of Harlow's rules: drink steady, not fast. Keep enough for trouble. Everyone followed it except Doc, who always pretended he forgot so he could steal someone's last sip. Nobody ever let him. Up close, the terrain looked like someone had scattered gravel, then let the wind cut the rest into shapes that didn't look natural. You'd see long stretches of flat ground, then a sudden wall of stone, then pockets of shade so dark they looked like holes. We made camp only long enough to eat something dry and salty. No fire, no noise. The desert didn't care we were there, which somehow made it feel like it did. As we moved, Pike picked up faint tracks here and there. Nothing tied to our missing pair yet. He kept squatting down, brushing sand aside, frowning. He didn't like what he wasn't seeing. Harlow didn't like that he wasn't seeing anything either. By late afternoon, we were getting close. The Guelta sat somewhere ahead, hidden by ridges. The air cooled a little, but not much. The wind changed direction, bringing a smell that didn't belong. Wet stone, maybe. Stagnant water. Hard to tell out there. We kept scanning the horizon. The desert played tricks. Sometimes you'd think something moved, but it was only heat. Other times you'd think it was heat, but it wasn't. Kara tried hailing the missing soldiers again on the radio. She got only static. She switched to scanning. More static, more static. She shook her head. Either they're dead or someone's blocking, she said. Harlow told her to keep trying. Evening pushed in slow. The shadows stretched long. Temperature started dropping. The kind of drop that warns you the night will hurt if you're not ready. We zipped jackets tight and checked face wraps. Night in the Sahara feels like punishment. We weren't far from the Guelta when the first odd thing happened. Pike found a torn strip of US tape stuck to a rock. Fresh. Adhesive hadn't baked yet. Someone had put it there recently. Maybe one of the missing soldiers marking a route. But the direction didn't make perfect sense. We followed the line slowly, spread out but within sight. Pike raised his hand at one point. We froze. He pointed at ground ahead boot tracks, then no more. They just stopped at a patch of hard dirt. No scuff, no slide, no wrong step. Wind? Doc asked. Not this clean, Pike said. Ibrahim came over and stared at the spot. He said nothing, but the look in his eyes changed, harder, like he recognized something he didn't want to. Kara tested the radio again. A faint voice came through, real faint. She held still, bent forward, listening. The call sign matched one of the missing soldiers, but the timing was off, words too spaced. No breathing behind them. She lowered the radio. That wasn't right, she said quietly. We pushed on until we hit the outer shade of the Guelta Bull. Rocks rose up around us like broken walls. There, in a patch of shadow, we found a neat stack of gear. A pouch, a strap torn clean, an empty bottle, a compass with cracked glass. Set down carefully. Too carefully. But no boots. Only their laces, cut and placed on top like a final touch. Ibrahim stopped in the sun and refused to step into the shade. He crossed his arms. We should not stay, he said. Harlow crouched near the gear but didn't touch anything. People panic when they run out of options, he said, but his eyes kept going back to those cut laces. Something was off. Everyone felt it. Even the wind sounded wrong. We stood there a long moment, listening to nothing and thinking about the missing pair and what they must have seen. We weren't scared yet, just uneasy. That kind of unease that sits low in the gut and waits to grow into something worse. We moved deeper along the ridge, planning to circle the Guelta and search from high ground. Routine, controlled, like we'd done 100 times before. That's the thing about missions like this. Everything feels normal until it doesn't. Everything feels routine until the first piece stops fitting. The sun dipped. Shadows got long and sharp, and the desert went quiet. We didn't know yet what was waiting out there, not then. But we were about to learn. We started pushing along the outer ridge with the last light bleeding out. The Guelta lay somewhere below, hidden by angles of stone. The air felt heavier, cooler too. The kind of cool that came too fast, like someone opened a door to a cold room. Nobody talked unless it mattered. We kept spacing tight. The ground shifted from sand to rough rock, then back again, like the terrain couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Pike moved ahead a little, crouched now and then, checking the ground. He didn't say much, just shook his head at what he wasn't finding. Tracks should have been there, even faint ones, but everything was broken, scattered, or wiped clean. Too clean. The wind picked up, carrying grit that stung our cheeks. Not enough to blind us, but enough to get under our skin. The ridges around us made the gusts whistle in short bursts. It sounded like breathing from the wrong place. We came over a rise and saw the approach leading into the Guelta Bowl, low rock ridges, gravel flats shaped by wind, thin patches of scrub that looked burned out. Quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you feel watched. Pike pointed at a rock. He found another strip of tape, same type as before. It hadn't baked stiff yet, which meant it hadn't been there long, but the direction it pointed wasn't towards safe ground. It angled deeper into the rocks. "Why would they go that way?" Kara asked. Pike gave a small shrug, either confused or led. Doc raised a brow. "Led by who?" Pike didn't answer. We kept moving, boots crunching lightly. Harlow watched the sky. "If wind climbs any more, we make camp on high ground, not down there," he said. Ibrahim nodded instantly, which told me he was more worried than he let on. A few minutes later, we hit the second clue. Pike stopped again and held up his fist. We froze behind him. He pointed at patches of disturbed sand, boot tracks, then nothing. Same as before, just cut off. No stumble, no drag. No sign someone walked backward. Harlow crouched beside Pike. Wind? Pike touched the edge of one print. Too sharp. Not blown. Just ends. Ibrahim looked around like he expected something to come out of the rocks. His face tightened. "They were taken," he said. Doc let out a soft breath. "Taken how?" Ibrahim didn't answer that either. We pushed on. Kara's radio hissed in her ear. She stopped walking and turned slightly, listening hard. "I've got something," she said. We formed around her while she adjusted the dial with slow, careful movements. Static. Then a faint voice. The call sign of one of the missing soldiers. But the voice didn't sound right. Words repeated with strange spacing. Rhythm off. Like someone copying a sentence by sound alone, not meaning. Kara's face tightened. She held the radio closer, listening. "No breathing," she said. "Just the words," the voice repeated again. Same tone. Same distance. Like a recording that didn't understand it was supposed to sound human. Harlow took a step back. "Kill that frequency." Kara shut it off. Nobody said anything for a moment. We reached the edge of the Guelta's outer shade just as the last of the sun died. The temperature dropped quick. We found a shaded pocket in the rocks where someone had placed gear too clean, too arranged. A pouch, a torn strap, an empty bottle, a compass with cracked glass. Laid out almost like an offering. No blood, no scuffs, no sign of a fight. But the bootlaces cut clean, laid on top, felt wrong in a way I can't explain without remembering the way my stomach dropped. Doc stared at them. "Who strips laces first?" Pike shook his head. "Nobody sane." Ibrahim didn't enter the shade. He stayed just outside where the last light hit the ground. "We should not stand here long," he said. "Something uses the dark in this place." Harlow kept his voice steady. "What stories have you heard about this spot?" Ibrahim kept his eyes on the rocks. "Old ones. Things that wear other voices. Things that move without tracks. I only know we do not sleep here." Kara shifted uneasily and checked her radio again, as if expecting that strange voice to return. Doc scanned the ridges with his night vision, tapping the side to keep the image steady. The temperature dropped faster than usual. Desert nights fall cold, but this felt sudden, sharp. Breath steamed faintly. Clothing stiffened from sweat cooling too fast. Something about the air felt wrong. Harlow felt it too. He gave the quiet hand signal, alert, eyes open, no chatter. We moved along the deeper edge of the bowl, spreading just enough to watch different angles without losing sight of each other. Our boots crunched over gravel patches, but the echo never behaved. Sometimes it carried. Sometimes it died instantly, like the rock swallowed it. Kara muttered under her breath, "Feels like the place is listening." Doc elbowed her lightly. "Stop giving it ideas," but none of us laughed. Another 10 minutes of slow movement and checking angles passed before Pike crouched again and motioned us over. He found tracks, but not boot ones. Something else. The prints looked half human, half wrong. Only a few. Then they shifted shape and ended at rock like something walked out of its own footprint. Pike straightened up. "I don't know what that is," he said. His voice was tight. Not scared, just honest. Harlow took a breath. "We stay sharp. We keep it rational." But his eyes were on those prints longer than they should have been. Ibrahim spoke low. almost to himself. Empty places have old things. We didn't respond. We reached a small shelf of rock overlooking the bowl. The Guelta water below looked dark and still. Nothing stirred, but the air around it felt colder than it should have, like the ground was holding its breath. Kara checked her radio again, frowning. "You hear that?" she whispered. At first I thought it was wind. Then I realized it had rhythm. A faint, distant voice far away but pointed right at us. We froze, but the sound faded before any of us could make sense of it. Harlow made the call. We don't linger. We find a spot away from this bowl. We hold till morning. None of us argued. Even Doc stayed quiet. We turned away from the Guelta, rifles ready, nerves pulled tight. The first hints of danger were already around us. Small things, wrong things, pieces that didn't fit. We weren't scared yet, not fully. But unease had settled into us like grit in our clothes. And it was only the beginning. Late afternoon slipped into that strange half-light the desert gets before night fully drops. The wind started shifting again, small bursts at first. Dust swirled around our boots, lifting just enough to haze the air. Pike kept glancing upward. He didn't like the color of the sky, neither did I. A dull brown smear sat way out on the horizon. Looked harmless at first, just distant grit. But it grew, fast, too fast, like the desert decided to inhale and exhale wrong. Harlow noticed it next. "Storm's building," he muttered. He wasn't guessing. The tone said he knew it for sure. Ibrahim stared at the smear, jaw tight. "We must move," he said. "Now." That is not small. We tried to get ahead of it, but the dust wall was quicker. One moment it was a thin line. A few minutes later it was a rolling curtain rising higher and wider, swallowing the horizon. You could feel the pressure pushing ahead of it, like the air wanted to run. When it hit, it was violence. Sand slapped every exposed inch of skin, got in our mouths, eyes, and ears. Grit scraped our teeth. Talking turned into coughing. The temperature plunged the way it does when the sun gets choked out. Kara tried calling out on the radio. Only broken hiss, just static grinding through the wind. She adjusted settings, slapped the side, tried again. Nothing. We dropped to storm posture as Harlow drilled into us earlier. Backs to rock, hoods pulled tight, hands over face wraps. We linked visually as best we could, barely a couple of meters apart. If someone drifted too far, they'd vanish into the grit. Rourke offered to do a quick perimeter walk, just a few steps to check we weren't boxed in by terrain. Harlow allowed it, but told him to stay in shouting distance. Rourke moved out slowly, one hand against the rock, the other raised behind him to signal position. The storm thickened so fast he was already half blurred when he reached the next ridge. His last whisper came over the radio. "I see," then nothing, not cut by wind, not blocked by static, just ended. Harlow snapped upright. Rourke, sound off. No answer. Doc cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted. Wind shredded the sound. Kara tried the radio again. Silence. She frowned hard, like she felt something crawling under her skin. "That wasn't a normal cutout," she said. He didn't finish the breath. We had a choice. Stay put and hope he walked back through the storm, or look for him and risk getting swallowed ourselves. Harlow made the call none of us wanted, but all of us understood. We find him. 2 minutes out, no farther. We stayed tight, leaning into the wind like we were walking through water. Sand peppered our goggles so hard it felt like we were being pelted with glass. Every step felt wrong because you couldn't hear your own boots. We found his glove first. Half buried, still warm. Doc grabbed it, shouting Rourke's name again. Nothing came back. Pike pointed at a disturbed trail in the sand fresh. The storm hadn't erased it yet. Whatever happened to him had happened fast. We followed the disturbed patch until it just stopped. No footprints, no drag, no sign someone fell, no gear dropped. Just a smooth patch where the wind hadn't even carved yet, like the desert opened and took him. Clean. Doc swore under his breath. Kara backed up a step, gripping her rifle tight. "Something's wrong," she said. "This isn't storm blindness." He was right there. Ibrahim knelt and touched the sand where the trail ended. His hand shook once, barely noticeable. We should not stay. Not in this wind, not with something moving. Pike looked at Harlow. If we push farther, we lose more. Harlow hated the choice. You could see it in the way he stared at that empty patch of sand. Rourke was his man, leaving him chewed at him. But command decisions don't care about feelings. Back to the hide, Harlow said through clenched teeth. We survived the storm. At first light, we search again. Nobody liked it. Nobody argued. We pulled back toward the bowl, fighting the wind all the way. The storm had turned the world into a blur of brown and gray. Shapes vanished unless you kept your eyes locked to the team. Every few steps, someone stumbled, caught themselves, kept moving. The rocks around us shook with the gusts. By the time we reached the hide we'd marked earlier, the storm had settled into a steady roar. We hugged the rock wall, forming a tight group. Sand piled around our boots. Dust scraped our throats raw. Night vision flickered uselessly in the grit. Harlow counted heads. 4 of us now: Pike, Kara, Doc, me, and Ibrahim crouched close, face wrapped, eyes wide. Rourke was gone, taken by wind, taken by terrain. Hard to believe. Harder to accept anything else. Doc lowered his head, voice muffled. He was right there, 10 steps. Kara shook the sand out of her hood. Someone doesn't vanish in 10 steps, not unless something takes them. Nobody answered that. We stayed tucked against the rock, waiting for the storm to calm. Minutes stretched long, then longer. Harlow kept checking the darkness beyond the ridge, as if expecting Rourke to step out of it. But he never did. When the wind finally dipped, the silence left behind felt heavier than the storm. A pressure that settled into our shoulders and didn't let go. That was the first time I felt real fear out there. Not panic, just the cold understanding that something had shifted around us. Something we weren't trained for. Something the desert kept hidden until it wanted to show it. And it had just taken one of ours. That was the moment we knew the mission wasn't routine anymore. It had become something else. Something alive in the sand and dark. The storm died sometime after the sun slipped under the horizon, but it left the cold behind. The kind of cold that gets into your fingers fast and makes every joint feel stiff. Sweat from the day froze on our shirts. We kept brushing sand off our rifles, off the radios, off our faces. Everything felt scraped raw. Rourke was gone. We couldn't say it out loud yet, but everyone felt the empty space where he should have been. Pike kept staring into the dark like he expected to hear heavy boots coming back. Kara kept checking her radio, even though she wasn't getting anything but hiss. Doc looked guilty, like he should have held on to Rourke, even though nobody could have. Harlow didn't waste time. He ordered us to set a hide tight, low, protected from wind. We picked a rock bowl with one entrance and enough of a lip to break the gusts. No lights, no fire, just body heat and gear. We huddled in close, knees touching, backs against the cold stone, every breath fogged. Night in the Sahara always hit hard, but this felt worse. Like the cold wasn't just temperature. Like it wanted something. We passed water in small sips. Nobody said it, but losing Rourke meant we all started feeling our own pulse a little clearer. Kara kept the radio on her lap, wiping sand off the receiver. Storm messed the range, she muttered. Or something else did. Doc glanced at her. Storms don't swallow people whole. Nobody said Storm did it, she said. But something used it. Nobody argued. Hours crawled. We rotated, watch 2 awake, 3 trying to rest. No real sleep. Just closing your eyes and feeling your heartbeat hammer under your ribs. Somewhere close, maybe 20 meters, wind shifted in a way that didn't sound like wind. It came in patterns, short bursts, then nothing. A rhythm, we all heard it. Nobody moved. Then a voice drifted in from the dark. Not loud, not panicked, just far enough that you had to lean to catch it. Help, over here, the missing soldier's voice. The one we'd heard faint on the radio earlier, same tone, same distance, same timing. Doc sat up fast. That's him. Has to be. Harlow grabbed his arm. Stay put. The voice came again. Over here, Kara slowly raised the radio. She wasn't even pressing the button yet. It's repeating, she whispered. Exactly the same pause. Then a new one slipped through the dark. Rourke's voice, same breathless panic he'd had right before the storm hit. Major need. Cut. Clean. Kara stiffened. There's no breathing behind it. Just words. Doc swallowed hard. Maybe he's gone, Harlow said. That isn't him. Silence stretched between us, thick as the cold. Another lull came. Pike, on watch, tapped my boot and pointed at the ground outside the hide. In the faint moon glow, I saw strange prints around us. Not boots. The shapes were half human, like someone walking barefoot with long toes, but then they shifted into split hoof marks for 2 steps, then vanished where rock began. No lead-in, no exit trail. Pike whispered, "Nothing walks like that." Ibrahim finally spoke from where he sat hunched. "In empty places, something wears voices." Doc let out a slow breath. "You're saying something out there is pretending to be them?" Ibrahim nodded once. "To pull you where it wants." Kara clutched her rifle tighter. Harlow didn't shut Ibrahim down, which told us he believed enough to take it seriously. "We hold until dawn," he said. "No chasing voices." The night dragged. The cold bit harder. Every 20 minutes we re-wiped our gear, fingers numb and clumsy. Sand got into bolts and hinges. Doc treated small cuts and cracked skin in the dark. The voices kept coming. Sometimes close, sometimes far, always wrong. Sometimes Rourke's voice, sometimes the missing soldiers. Always with that broken rhythm. A sentence repeated. A sentence too clean. Around midnight, Kara started writing them down on a small notepad. Every line came out identical. Same spacing, same tone, same breaths missing. "It's not asking for help," she whispered. "It's imitating help." The wind outside changed again. Instead of gusts, it came in slow, steady pushes, like something was pacing around the bowl. We could hear sand sliding down small ridges, but not from every direction, just in arcs, like a pattern. Doc leaned in close during his watch. "Feels like it's circling." Pike nodded. "It's testing us." Near dawn, during a quiet stretch, something scraped lightly against the far side of our hide. Not claws, not rock. Something testing the boundary. Slow, almost curious. Ibrahim tensed so hard I heard his clothes shift. "It hunts tired minds," he whispered. "You answer a voice, you follow it, then you don't return." None of us slept after that. When dawn finally broke, the cold stayed. Sunlight didn't warm anything. The desert looked washed out, the air heavy from the storm's leftovers. It felt like we'd lost a night, lost a teammate, and were about to lose more if we weren't careful. We crawled out of the hide slowly, checking every angle. No fog, no storm, no footprints except the strange ones Pike found earlier. Those had faded but not fully erased. Kara tried the radio again. Still static. Doc checked everyone's hands, eyes, and lips for dehydration and cold stress. He kept glancing toward the place where Rourke disappeared. Pike walked a slow circle around the hide. When he came back, he shook his head. "Nothing human walked here last night." The worst part was, none of us disagreed. Harlow gathered us near a rock overhang where the wind couldn't carry sound far. "We're not breaking," he said. "Whatever's out here wants us reactive. We stay disciplined. We don't answer strange voices. We move at dawn, find the missing pair, then get out." We nodded, though none of us felt steady. Kara looked out toward the Guelta bowl. "It's going to follow us," she said. Harlow didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He just scanned the horizon and tightened the strap on his rifle. The desert was quiet. Too quiet again, like it was listening. We weren't fighting the storm anymore. We weren't fighting dehydration or cold. Something else was out there, something patient, and it had already taken one of us. Dawn hit pale and weak, but at least we could see more than a few meters. The storm had laid down most of its grit, leaving everything coated in a thin crust. It crunched under our boots as we moved to higher ground. The Guelta sat behind us now, hidden in the rocks, but nobody felt safer with distance. We needed proof of what we were dealing with. Even Harlow knew we couldn't keep reacting to shadows and voices. We needed a rule to fight with, something solid. He called us into a tight circle behind a ridge where the wind dipped low. "We don't chase voices anymore," he said. "We test them." Kara rubbed her eyes. She hadn't slept at all. "Test how?" "A code word," Harlow said. "One only we know. If someone speaks without it, we treat it as hostile, even if it sounds like one of us dying." Doc blinked slowly. "That's cold." "It's survival," Harlow said. "If we run after every cry, we're done." We agreed. Pike chose the word, something simple but out of place enough that it had to be intentional. We all repeated it once under our breath, then we moved. Next was Overwatch. Harlow wanted eyes on the terrain with thermal gear from a rise overlooking our approach route. Not a long-distance spot, just enough elevation to give a clean field of view. Pike and I climbed with the scope while the others kept the hide tight. Thermal didn't care about dust as much as night vision. It showed heat, even the faint stuff. We settled behind the ridge, rifles low, scanning slow arcs. The desert looked empty. A few scattered rocks lit with warm patches from early sunlight. The rest was cold space. Kara's voice came up on the radio steady, low. Harlow got something. We heard the faint edges of a voice behind her words. We all froze. The voice came through again. Perfect call sign. Perfect tone. It sounded like one of the missing soldiers trying not to cry. Over here, found water, please. But the format was wrong. The phrasing didn't match military radio style. The pauses sat in the wrong spots. The breathing wasn't there. Harlow spoke calmly. Say the code word. Silence. Then the voice tried again. But the code word came out in the wrong place. Wrong order. Like someone copied it but didn't understand why it mattered. Pike muttered under his breath, "It's learning." The proof landed heavy. Something out there wasn't just mimicking voices, it was adapting. Kara cut transmission. "That thing is getting smarter," she said. Her hand shook a little and she forced it still. Harlow nodded once. "Good. Now we know." We set the next test. Harlow's idea. He had Kara send a burst of controlled radio noise, short tones, clipped words, meant to imitate confusion. Then Pike and I angled a decoy light reflection off a small mirror into the shallow dunes. Just enough to give something to follow. If it was trying to bait us, we would bait it back. We waited, breathing shallow, scanning every slice of ground. 10 seconds, 20, 40. Then Pike nudged me. Got movement. Through the thermal scope, I saw it. A shape. Human enough that for 1 second my brain believed it. Arms, legs, head. But the heat signature flickered wrong. It wasn't warm like a normal body. It glowed faint at first, then bright, then faint again. Like it couldn't decide if it was there. It moved toward the decoy light in slow steps. Not stumbling, not limping, just wrong. Like it was adjusting itself with every motion. I steadied my rifle. Harlow whispered, "If you have a shot, take it." At the next bright flicker, I fired. Sand jumped. The round hit, but no body dropped. No cry, no stagger. The shape vanished from the thermal for 2 seconds, then came back farther left, like it had never been in the original spot. A low rumble carried across the ground. Not a laugh, not a growl, something between. The kind of sound that makes your skin crawl because you don't know what part of it is real. At that same moment, something brushed the back of the hide where Harlow, Doc, and Kara were positioned. Not a hit, not a strike, just a fast, light drag across rock. Too close, too fast. Kara gasped, "It's behind us." But the thermal still showed the shape ahead. That's when it clicked, cold and sharp. It could split attention. Pull you with bait while stalking from another angle. Harlow called up the ridge. We're breaking at first light. Higher rock route. We find the missing men fast or we all die here. No argument from anyone. The shape vanished from thermal completely after that. The desert looked empty again, too empty. We regrouped at the hide. Everyone was tense, wired tight. Doc wiped sweat from his face even though the cold was biting. I don't like that it didn't run when we fired. It didn't care about bullets, Kara said. Harlow shook his head. It cared. It just knows how to avoid them. Ibrahim looked over the ridge, face pale in the new morning light. Old things do not fight straight. They pull you one step at a time until you are alone. Pike stood there quietly, jaw tight. We need to move before it learns more. We packed fast. Every strap checked twice, water rationed again. The cold made our hands clumsy. Sand still clogged the receivers, so we cleaned them one more time. Before we stepped out, Harlow said the rules again. No answering voices. No breaking formation. No hero moves alone. If someone vanishes, we do not chase. It felt brutal. It felt right. As we walked, the desert stretched wide and flat, Nothing moving except small curls of dust pushed by the last dying gusts. But every few minutes, the radio thumped with faint static, like someone tapping on the other end, waiting. We didn't answer. We kept walking. We still hadn't seen the missing soldiers. But after last night, none of us believed we were only dealing with lost men. Something else was out there, circling us, learning us, waiting for the next mistake. And the desert gave it plenty of places to hide. We moved at first light, cold cutting through our sleeves, boots crunching over loose grit. Nobody talked. Even Doc kept quiet. The desert felt hollow, like noise didn't want to leave our mouths. We pushed toward the higher rock route Harlow chose, a path with fewer blind corners and less deep shade. Didn't matter. The thing out there had already learned us. We reached a narrow stretch where sand spilled across flat stone. Pike slowed, eyeing the ground. "Hear that?" he whispered. At first I caught nothing but the wind. Then I heard it. A voice, faint, below us. "Help, please," one of the missing soldiers. The same tone we'd heard in the dark. Pike crouched and brushed sand aside with his glove. The sand shifted different here, looser, like it had been disturbed recently. He dug deeper, careful and slow. After a few inches, something hard scraped under his fingertips. A radio handset, buried shallow. Its transmit button was jammed down. Kara knelt beside him, brushing the casing clean. "This thing's been broadcasting non-stop." She flipped it over. "These scratches aren't rocks. The marks ran straight and deep, like something with hard nails had raked at it." The voice kept coming from the speaker, same sentence, same timing. "A loop. It records voices," Kara said, "then plays them to move you." Doc swallowed hard. "So the real guy might be dead. Or worse," Pike said quietly. Harlow took the handset and clicked it off. The sudden silence hit like a shock. Even the wind sounded wrong after hearing that loop. "Pack up," he said. "We keep moving." We pushed out fast, but the desert was turning against us. Sun climbed fast. Heat shimmer wavered across the flats. The storm had taken most of our moisture, and what little we had left felt thin in our throats. Thirst headaches started behind our eyes, lips cracked. Hands shook from cold layered under rising heat. Fatigue crept in like another enemy. Small things suffered first. Gun grips slipped. Steps landed sloppy. Focus drifted. I caught myself blinking too slow. Pike walked point, but even he stumbled once, catching himself quick. His shoulders were tight. "I keep wanting to turn toward voices," he muttered. "Feels automatic." "Fight it," Doc said. "Your brain's tired." "It's tricking you." "It's not my brain," Pike answered. "Something's pushing." We kept moving. Hours passed, slow, empty. No sign of the missing soldiers. No sign of Rourke. But the thing out there wasn't hiding its interest now. Every so often we heard faint footsteps behind us. Too light to be human, but too steady to be wind. A scrape across stone. A soft thud in sand. Always stopping when we turned around. Always far enough to question and close enough to feel. Ibrahim refused to lead for a while. He walked behind Pike, fingers tight on his scarf. "Do not drink first," he said when Doc handed him water. "Water is how it calls." Doc frowned. "You need it." Ibrahim shook his head. "Not before you." Doc stared at him a long moment, then gave the bottle to Pike. Ibrahim drank only when forced. We climbed another ridge. Visibility stretched far, but none of it looked safe. Strange heat flickers danced along the horizon, making rocks look like moving shapes. The desert started playing tricks, hard shadows where there should be none, bright spots where the sun wasn't hitting. Kara whispered to me at one point, "I keep thinking I see someone crouching behind rocks." "You see actual shapes?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, I see the intent of shapes." That made my stomach tighten. The voices returned mid-morning, not shouting, just drifting, calling each of us by name. Voices we trusted, voices that shouldn't be here. Rourke's voice came again, soft this time, like he was struggling to breathe. "Major, wait, please wait." Harlow's jaw clenched hard. "Ignore it," he said. But his eyes were wounded. Rourke had been with him a long time. We reached a slope of sand that dipped into a narrow cut between rocks. Pike raised a fist to stop us. Then he leaned forward. At first I thought he was slipping, but I saw it too. A faint shape at the edge of the cut. Human outline. Kneeling, shoulders shaking. Could have been one of the missing soldiers. Doc nearly ran toward it. Harlow grabbed him. Code word. Doc froze. The shape didn't move, didn't react. Just held that same frozen posture. Then it faded into bright shimmer and vanished, like the desert blinked and swallowed it. Doc looked sick. The next hours broke us down further. The thing changed tactics. It stopped trying to lure all of us at once. Instead, it waited for individual moments, tiny drops in discipline. When someone shifted to adjust a strap, a voice whispered from behind them. When someone drifted 2 steps off path to check footing, a cry came from ahead. When someone knelt for a second to fix gear, a shadow leaned over them. We lost our second man that way. It happened fast, no drama, no screams. Just a stumble from Kara's rear arc. A grunt, sand lifting, a shape pulling backward into shade. A muffled sound swallowed by wind. Gone. Doc lunged, but Harlow yanked him back with brutal force. No chasing, he barked. Doc shook with anger. We just let him. He's gone, Harlow said. It wants us separated. We stay alive by not giving it more. Kara looked sick. It's picking us off, one at a time. Pike checked the ground where the man vanished. Nothing. No prints. No drag marks. No gear drop. Just a faint swirl where his boots had stood. Ibrahim wrapped his scarf tight around his mouth. It hunts the weak moment, he said. When your guard is down, when your mind bends. We were 4 now if you counted Ibrahim. 3 operators and a guide. Too few for comfort. Too few for mistakes. We stopped at a rock shelf to drink a little and breathe. Our shadows were sharp now, heat rising hard. But none of us stepped too close to deep shade. Harlow stood looking over the flats. We're pushing toward the extraction point, he said. We find the missing pair on the way or we don't. But we're not dying out here, Doc argued. What about Pike? Kara, you want to leave their bodies. There are no bodies, Harlow said. And if we stay, we join them. The words hurt. They were true. We pushed on, legs heavy. Every step felt like the desert pulling us deeper. Every gust felt like something brushing against our backs. Every sound felt like something learning us more. Something out there was collecting us. And we were running out of people to give. We were down to 4 moving bodies, Harlow, Kara, Pike, and me. Ibrahim still walked with us, but he had that far-off look the desert gives men who've seen too much of it. The storm threat was rising again. The air felt tight. Wind kept changing angles, bringing dust in quick bursts. Extraction window was close. If we missed it, we'd be stuck out here with something that already knew our voices and our weak points. Kara kept scanning the radio. Air says dust is building again, she muttered. If we don't get there soon, they'll wave off the pickup. Harlow nodded. Then we move. We crossed open sand broken by jagged rock ribs. Visibility snapped in and out as dust pulsed across the flats. One moment I could see Pike 10 meters ahead. Next moment he was a shadow. Then gone. Then back again. Then back again. It messed with depth, with judgment, with nerves. Perfect ground for that thing. Pike slowed at the top of a small rise. He pointed at the horizon. Dust walls building fast, he said. We have maybe an hour. Ibrahim spat into the sand. It disappeared instantly. That is not a normal storm, he said. It is coming too fast. Before Harlow could answer, the radio crackled. A voice broke through, weak, broken, breath short. Not the loop, not the clean mimic. A real voice. Help, anyone, please. Kara froze. That sounds like a real person. It might be one of the missing, Doc whispered. Except Doc wasn't with us anymore. It hit me hard that he wasn't here to say anything at all. His voice still echoed in my head. Harlow hesitated for a few seconds. Human seconds. And in the desert, seconds kill. Pike frowned. The rhythm's wrong. It's not looping, but it's off. Kara shook her head. I hear breathing. Real breathing. Harlow clenched his jaw. If one of them is alive, that was all the hesitation the ghoul needed. A gust slammed sideways across the ridge, heavy with grit. We staggered. Visibility wiped out. Everything turned into swirling brown noise. Someone behind me shouted, short, cut off. A grunt. Then nothing. When the dust thinned enough to see shapes again, 2 of our team were gone. just gone. The sand where they stood was smooth. No prints, no drag, no gear, nothing. Only Harlow, Kara, Pike, and Ibrahim remained. Kara covered her mouth with her hand, shaking. It waited for the hesitation, she whispered. It knew he'd stop to help. Harlow looked broken for half a heartbeat. Then he snapped back to mission mode. "We move," he said. "We move now." We forced ourselves forward, no talking, no looking back. The storm line was growing, swallowing the horizon. If we didn't reach that pickup point, we'd never leave the desert alive. We'd become voices drifting in the dark for the next unlucky team. The ground climbed again. Rocks ahead formed a natural wall. On the far side, we found a shallow hollow sheltered from the wind. Pike raised a hand, crouching. Two shapes lay tucked against the stone. The missing soldiers. Alive. Barely. Eyes wide and empty. Lips cracked from thirst. Skin pale under the dust. They shook like they'd been locked in cold water for days. They didn't look wounded. Not in the body anyway. Gear partly stripped. Shirts torn open at the collar. Bootlaces cut cleanly like the others. Like something had been selecting pieces, Ibrahim refused to enter the shade with them. He stayed at the edge, muttering something under his breath. Kara moved in slow, hands up. She crouched beside the nearest man. "Hey, you're safe now. We're here. Talk to me." He didn't react at first. His eyes followed her, but not her face. More like her mouth. Like he expected her voice to become something else. Harlow knelt by the second soldier. "We're getting you out. Can you walk?" The man didn't answer. His hands trembled uncontrollably. Kara tried again with the first. "What happened? Can you tell us anything?" He swallowed, lips bleeding at the cracks. Then he whispered one line. Flat. Hollow. Like the words weren't his anymore. "It learned our voices." Kara flinched. "What does that mean?" But the soldier shut down again, curling in on himself, arms tight to his chest. Pike checked the ridge behind us. "We need to move. Storm's almost here." Harlow nodded and pulled the second soldier up, slinging his arm over his own shoulder. I grabbed the other one. He felt cold, too cold for the heat around us. We forced our way out of the hollow and started toward the extraction point, a flat patch of ground marked on the map, nothing more. The world was turning brown again. Dust gusts hit us in waves. One moment we could see the sky. The next moment it vanished. Kara held the radio tight to her chest, trying to keep the static under control. "Air, this is Harlow team," she said. "We have the missing men. Need immediate pickup." Static. Then a short burst of clarity. Dust rising. Window closing. "You have minutes, not more." Kara glanced at Harlow. "They're close, but we need to show movement." Harlow raised a chem light, cracked it, and held it high. Pale green glow struggled against the storm. The missing soldier in my arms tensed suddenly. His head snapped toward the dunes behind us. His whole body trembled harder. I didn't look. I didn't want to see whatever he thought he saw. But I felt it. The air behind us thickened. Heat that wasn't heat. Cold that wasn't cold. Pressure shifting like something massive moved under the sand. Ibrahim whispered, "Do not look. Keep walking." So we did. We pushed forward until I could hear rotors chopping faintly through the grit. The helicopter wavered in the dust, barely visible. Pilot battling the wind. Skids touched down rough. Harlow shoved his soldier in first. I lifted mine after. Kara climbed in next, helping strap them down. Pike hauled gear inside. Ibrahim stayed outside a second longer than he should have, staring into the storm like he saw something coming for him. Harlow grabbed his arm. "Move." We piled in as the pilot lifted off. Dust swallowed the ground below. The world turned into swirling brown chaos. For a moment, just a moment, I saw something move beneath us. A human shape fading into the grit, then splitting into two shapes, then into something with legs that bent the wrong way, then nothing. Tracks disappeared under the wind, erased in seconds. The desert wanted its secrets kept. We made it out by minutes, maybe less. As the storm swallowed the ground behind us, Harlow looked at the rescued soldiers, curled and silent, shaking from something no medic could treat. "It learned our voices," one whispered again. Nobody answered. Nobody could. Back at the forward base, everything turned quiet in a different way. Not desert quiet, bureaucratic quiet. The kind where something awful gets flattened into lines on a report so nobody has to say what really happened. The 2 soldiers we pulled out were taken straight to medical. They were stable, heartbeats fine, hydration slow but steady. Bodies okay, minds ruined. They didn't talk much. When they did, it wasn't helpful. One flinched every time a radio clicked on anywhere near him. The other kept staring into corners, checking for shade that wasn't there. They refused to sleep alone. Wouldn't even close their eyes unless someone stood watch. That told me more than any debrief. We turned in our own gear, coated in dust and dried sweat. Harlow handled the paperwork, giving every answer in clean, controlled language. Dust storm interference, navigation hazards, hostile unknown. 2 recovered, 3 returned. No one wrote the word ghoul. Nobody dared. The higher-ups didn't ask the right questions. Or maybe they did and didn't want the answers. They didn't press about the voices. They didn't mention the way our radios acted. They didn't ask why gear was stacked neatly or why the bootlaces were cut clean. They didn't ask why we came back with fewer people than we left with. Losses in the desert weren't unheard of. Storms swallowed men, heat killed, cold killed, terrain killed, terrain killed. Plenty of tidy explanations if you didn't look too hard. Harlow gave the only honest line in the whole debrief. He said it slow, steady, looking straight at the officer across from him. Something intelligent hunted us. It used the weather, the dark, and our own voices. The officer wrote something down without looking up, probably nothing close to that sentence. Ibrahim didn't stay long. He packed his things before dawn the next morning, didn't say goodbye, didn't take payment beyond what he was owed. He just left, scarf wrapped tight around his face. Pike caught him before he mounted his truck. What was that thing? Ibrahim paused with one boot on the step. Old thing, he said, older than our stories. Some places are empty for a reason. Pike frowned. How do you fight something like that? You don't, Ibrahim said. You survive by not answering voices in empty places. Then he drove off, leaving nothing but tire tracks that faded in the morning wind. The rest of us stayed for a few more days while the rescued soldiers stabilized. Kara checked her radio gear again and again, trying to convince herself everything worked the way it should. Pike walked the perimeter at night, scanning the dark even though the desert here was safer. Doc wasn't here anymore. His absence hung in the air like unfinished business. When our team finally got pulled off rotation, we flew out quiet. No ceremony for the lost, no markers in the sand. The desert had swallowed them clean. Weeks later, back in the States, things should have felt normal again. But they didn't, not for any of us. Kara found something first. She told me about it months later over cheap coffee. She'd opened her pack to clean it out, dumping sand and scraps onto her floor. She shook the seams loose and something small slid out. A piece of plastic, bent, scratched. Part of the buried handset we dug up. She hadn't packed it, none of us had. It had been jammed deep, tucked where it couldn't fall by accident. She said she stared at it a long time. Too long, until the room felt wrong. Then she heard wind outside her window. Not loud, just enough to push dust along the ground. A thin sheet of it. Nothing unusual, just debris from a nearby lot. But she swore she saw prints appear in it for a moment. 2 human steps, then 2 split hoof marks. Then nothing. She blinked and the dust was smooth again. Not a chase, a reminder. We don't talk about that place much anymore. People wouldn't believe it. They'd say we were tired, dehydrated, stressed. They'd say the storm scrambled our thinking. They'd say voices carry strange across the desert. Let them. We know what hunted us, and we know it's still out there waiting for the next voice to answer. So that's the end of our video. If you made it this far, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free. And if you want more terrifying encounters like this one, check out the other videos on screen right now. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. See you soon.